See, Turek, your mind, it is like a gun. And you want to load it up with little itty bitty bullets of knowledge.
What's going on, everybody? It's your guy Border Lucky Libra, and thank you for tuning in to another episode. All right, as you can see by the title, we picking up the Debilitation series with the Gemini Archetype. All right, so before we get into it, y'all make sure to check out my website to connect with the Lucky Libra, and check out my Patreon where I'm diving into deeper analysis, celebrity synastry breakdowns, private live streams, monthly classes, and more. All right, so let's get right into it. Now, when we look at the debilitation of the archetype of a zodiac constellation, this is an energy that is gonna have some insecurity, some vulnerability involved with it. When the zodiac sign is dealing with, it's gonna play out as like a weakness, an Achilles heel, an energy that comes off left-sided to this zodiac sign every time they got to come in contact and experience this type of energy. So every zodiac sign has a debilitation, a part of their archetype. Not every sign, not every constellation has a fall. All right, not every constellation has a fall and an exaltation, but every constellation does have a debilitation. And when we look at debilitations, this is going to be the planetary ruler of the opposite sign. Okay, so off rip, your opposite sign is always going to show you the energies that you be lacking with. Now, you know, depending on certain alignments, some of us have suns and moons that are opposite, you know, Venus and Mercury's that are opposite. So you're learning to find the balance between both of these energies when we're talking about opposite energies in the chart. However, when we look at the Gemini archetype, all right, mutable air ruled by Mercury. So air is dealing with logic and communication. We know air is dealing with relatability. Air makes things connect. Air jumps into the present, past, and future. So when we talk about the present, we more so correlating things to the earth energy. When we talk about the past, more so dealing with water dealing with memory, okay? And then when we're looking at the future, we dealing with that fire element, you know, being able to push out internal energies. And air jumps into all three of them. So air helps to connect, but it also helps to it deals with relatability. But it also could be all over the place. All right, jumping into all three. So air signs, as gifted as that may sign, as that may sound, being able to jump into all three, air signs can get lost jumping into all three. Okay, and when we look at mutable air, mutable deals with the exchange. Mutable deals with being changeable and adaptable. So all mutable signs are changeable and adaptable with that element. When we talk about Gemini, they're mutable and adaptable with the way they deal with communication, with the way they relate to others. Geminis can step in new environments and pick up details of their surroundings and be able to start, you know, correlating themselves in a certain way as far as dealing with communication and interacting with others. Geminis know how to adjust their communication based off of who they're relating to. Okay, so this is why it could come off wishy-washy or, you know, split personalities or whatnot. Is just because they know how to adjust their communication a lot of the times. So it comes off like they have multiple personalities. But Gemini rules communication, period. All the air signs are dealing with communication and relationships because it's air. However, you know, even though all air signs deal with relationships, Libra is the relationship sign. Even though all air signs deal with relationships and communication, Gemini is the communication sign. And more emphasis of Gemini ruling communication is birthed out the third house. So we could also say that's a part of the archetype as well, the house that the sign is birthed out of, because that's the houses was here first. The houses gave birth to the constellation. So for everybody that's into Vedic or Eastern astrology, you have to understand that to help y'all be able to continue to correlate the differences between the houses and the signs. Now, with Gemini being mutable air, once again, very flexible and adaptable and changeable with the ways that they deal with communication. And they're ruled by Mercury. All right, Mercury rules the thought. Okay, Mercury deals with how we organize our thoughts before we communicate them to others. So dealing with thinking and communicating. Mercury is very curious and wants to pick up information. Mercury is going to influence some form of criticism, being critical of the self and others. It's air here, so Geminis can be critical, very detail oriented, and pick up a lot of information based off how other people communicate, talk, and push out their thoughts, and analyze how people think based off of what they're communicating. So when we get into the debilitation to help us understand the energy, that's debilitated in our archetype, we just need to look at the opposite sign and see that planetary ruler. And off rip, that's going to let you know what the opposite is, what energy that is that's going to be uncomfortable dealing with. And when we look at the opposite axis, the opposite end of the Gemini axis, we got Sagittarius, and Sagittarius ruled by Jupiter. So that's where the debilitation is at for Geminis, with Jupiter. And Jupiter is dealing with knowledge and wisdom. How does Jupiter implement knowledge and wisdom into our life? By the experiences Jupiter is placing us in. So the house you have Jupiter in, you're experiencing a lot in that area of life. You're here to be learning and gaining awareness in that area of life. Jupiter deals with expansion, is a big gassy planet. Okay, it's a big gassy planet. So whatever it comes in contact with is going to expand in some type of shape or form. Jupiter is, renowned as more of a beneficial planet, but this is how Jupiter brings benefits and fruits by what you're learning, what you're expanding on, what you're growing in awareness about with Jupiter, wherever Jupiter is at or transiting in your chart. So ultimately, the wisdom that you're gaining from the experiences where Jupiter is placing you in is the gems that you have for your trip, for your journey, for your spiritual path, for what is it you're embarking to do in life. So, we could value physical paper all day, but spiritual, you someone that values their esoteric gems as much or more as you should, okay? It's never gonna, that type of spirit don't fall into a scarcity mindset, all right? However, when we look at Jupiter representing this type of energy, this is how Jupiter brings benefits, and this is ultimately what Jupiter is doing. All right, that's why Jupiter is dealing with spiritual inclination. And with this energy being debilitating in Gemini, this is why Geminis dealing with the facts, dealing with information, the numbers, that's a Gemini sticking to their guns. Once we start diving into more faith, belief, philosophy, trying to be too broad and expand on things, adding too much meaning and reasoning into things, now this is where Gemini starts getting a little uncomfortable, or this is where you'll lose a Gemini. Because what makes it the most comfortable is that Mercury energy, being able to deal with some details and information, being able to communicate and relate about things to a Gemini. You're going to notice they're going to be asking you a lot of questions to get more of a detail of what you're talking about, or they're going to be aiding the conversation in a way where it's leading to dealing with more details of a scenario, situation, or a plan. Jupiter is dealing with faith and belief. It's not so much dealing with the more linear ways of thinking, all right? It's dealing with forms of spirituality and looking at things from a broader perspective, stepping out your body and analyzing things instead of being in your body and analyzing things from a more third dimensional way. So when we're looking at Geminis dealing with Jupiter energy, this is why Geminis, being mutable air ruled by Mercury, Geminis are going to manifest a lot of energies where a lot of them are jack of all trades. They know a little something about everything. All right, you bring a situation to a Gemini, they may not know all about it, but they gonna know something about it. Oh yeah, I heard about that. I was looking that up a couple of days ago. Yeah, what about it? You feel me? Oh, you're gonna get that type of energy from a Gemini all day, every day, because it's mutable. So they're always in a state of analyzing something new, paying attention to a new, different way of communicating, and how people are pushing out their thoughts and interacting. Always analyzing their surroundings. So once you throw Jupiter in there and start trying to add philosophy to things, or or try to dial in on a certain experience, on a certain philosophy or perspective to gain a huge awareness about that thing, sometimes Geminis, you have to learn to give yourself a chance to do that, because y'all, the mind is analyzing, so flexible, being able to pick up on so many things catch your attention mentally. All right, a lot of Geminis, I know you guys feel like I'm an air sign, I can relate, but you guys definitely dealing with an overload of thoughts. All right, could be arguably number one sign that deals with overthinking. So when we look at Jupiter here, Jupiter's trying to influence you guys to learn. All of our debilitations are energies we all by default are going to manifest situations having to learn dealing with it. All right, by default. So when we look at Geminis, Jupiter here is helping you to learn how to place more time into learning something, into expanding on a certain thought about something, because what the information that's familiar to a Gemini, that's what it is with a Gemini. That's what it is. Now it's mutable, so it's valuing at the same time what you have to communicate and your aspect on things, because that anything that stimulates the mind of a gem gets it going. So especially being mutable. But Jupiter here, Jupiter ain't really emphasizing a jack of all trades energy, because Mercury is just real curious, picking up energy everywhere. Jupiter wants to expand and develop a perspective, a certain philosophical perspective about something. And that's going to correlate to more faith in things reflected from experiences. So Geminis have to learn to embrace more situations where they may have to put faith and belief into something. They may have to deal with their wisdom and their intuition about things more than just how they could plan something, see the details to things. All right, and you guys are going to do that by default. But once that energy kicks in a relationship, in a career endeavor, in a personal pursuit, a passion, a certain goal you have, and you're dealing with situations that you got to deal with more faith in, and you got to deal with situations that deal with more faith and belief, this is when you got to understand, all right, I got debilitation of Jupiter. I have to allow myself to experience so I can grow on what I already know. Geminis, y'all know y'all love to stick to what y'all already know. Okay? And for the most part, the way the mind of a Gemini, the way the mind of a Gemini works, because it knows a little bit of something about everything, that's why it could just stop there sometimes. It could just stop there for you guys sometimes, because diving more into the why of something, not just what it is. Mercury just want to know what it is. Jupiter want to know why. So understanding the whys to certain things in life, that's going to be influence that you guys are going to catch a lot of the time. Okay, especially in your relationships, dealing with more of your intuition and seeing the meaning or reasoning why you're attracting certain people in your relationships, understanding how to put time into certain relationships and what relationships not to put time into, understanding how to take the wisdom from a previous relationship and apply it to the next relationship. A lot of the Jupiter energy gonna kick in with relationships for you Geminis. All right, Jupiter energy kicking Jupiter energy kicking a whole lot for relationships for all of us. Shit, I always say relationships tap a lot of people into their spiritual path. It's it's something about love and heartbreak that make a motherfucker want to start analyzing the world differently. But this is real shit, y'all. This is real shit. So Gemini, this is what I want y'all to understand. We need to deal with more faith and belief in this lifetime. That's how we make that Achilles heel. That's how we start cultivating that as a strength. All right? So when you're dealing with situations that I ain't noticed that until I started, watching be on camera, that every time I pull out, I got one eye closed. I just noticed that shit. I don't know what type of brackhead shit that is, but anyways, y'all gotta realize when y'all get into more situations that require you to expand on top of what you already know, that you embrace it, and you don't try to fight these situations with the information you feel like you already have. You're gonna be placed, this having the debilitation of Jupiter in Gemini, you're gonna be placed in a lot of experiences to influence you that you do not see the overall perspective of something. So y'all gotta pause for a second when y'all hear somebody, whether it's a co-worker, relationship, somebody you dating, a relative, say you think you know it all. At that very moment might just be a call from the universe to just pause a little bit and see if somebody actually has something else to help you look at something from more of a perspective that doesn't feel so linear and logical, but it's helping you to see what you already perceived from a bigger, broader perspective. Okay? Because at times dealing with too much, this is coming from an air sign. It's coming from an air sign. Logic, too much logic could be the death of us. All right? Always trying to intellectualize things. Always trying to put things in a linear way of thinking. All right? In a left brain way of thinking. All right? It's gonna come some moments in life that deal with more intuition, Gemini, and y'all gotta learn to deal with that. It's gonna be some times in life where life is influencing you to graduate with the knowledge you already have. Y'all some of the most intelligent signs in the zodiac, but you don't want that intelligence to be the things, the energy that stops you from feeling like you could be a student, because Jupiter is dealing with that teacher-student energy. Okay? So this is why y'all manifest that jack of all trades energy, but at the same time, this is why that one trade stays as a jack and can't manifest into an ace or a whole complete energy or something, because Jupiter needs to, there comes experiences that you need to embrace the time and the journey of something, all right, to be able to evolve, graduate, be able to build more broader perspectives of how you view life, your own ethics and morals about life. Shit, with Jupiter being debilitated here, this could play out in a lot of circumstances where Geminis, you guys can lack morals, you can lack certain ethics, and you'll manifest certain experiences, whether through relationships, whether through your career path, whether through personal issues, that you realize that you need to develop more of those. A lot of them lessons come with Sagittarius and well, I'm bugging. I'm thinking of Gemini risings. All right, if you Gemini rising, you got Sagittarius in 7th house, but we're talking about, you know, the sun sign and the constellation. But at the same time, wherever you have Gemini in your chart, it's still gonna have a debilitation of Jupiter in that area. You're gonna have a influence of Mercury. You're gonna be real detail oriented, and you still gonna learn a lot in that area, because Mercury and Jupiter, even though they opposite, they both dealing with learning just in different ways. However, you know, Jupiter is going to influence you to develop some morals and ethics. So it's just being able to deal with diving more into the meaning and reasoning about things a lot of the time. So it's not saying a Gemini can't be into spirituality or spiritual things, but the way they perceive it, the way they perceive these things, and is going to probably come off from a logical aspect. Or let's say, all right, not to confuse it, let me give you an example. Let's say, all right, let's say my brother, I got an older brother, let's say my brother is paying attention to, okay, this is actually a perfect example. Let's say my brother is paying attention to things dealing with astrology. I catch him watching a YouTube video breaking down why you should and shouldn't date this type of chick by her zodiac sign. Now he knows I do astrology, but he ain't into none of that shit. So if he was a Gemini, when I come in the room and watch him watching that and try to add more meaning and reasoning and expand on what astrology and the zodiac signs is like I'm throwing it off now. I'm throwing the Gemini off now. You feel me? All right. It's like you adding too much. Once again, Jupiter deal with expansion, so adding too much to things at times for a Gemini, that could Gemini's like having they shit. It's Mercury here. It's Mercury, so air can be all over the place, especially mutable air, but Mercury still deal with details and shit. So Geminis be knowing where they put shit, where shit be at. They be, you know, they can forget a lot of things because they're dealing with an overload of thoughts. But the mind is organizing something, with Mercury being the ruling energy here. This is the mind of a Gemini. Trust me, you're dealing with some type of strategy with the way they think. Whether it looks like that to you or not, and I know y'all probably know some Geminis that are wild, don't look like they think about things, but there's a method to their madness. All right, but once again, this is influence Jupiter here. This is why you could be so intelligent, logical, but when it comes to certain, you being able to extract from your experiences, that's very important as well. Okay, I tweeted the other day, you know, a street nigga always gonna be more wiser than a professor, than a college professor. There's a difference between life experiences and being in the classroom. All right, so that's why I want my Geminis to understand. Alright, y'all. So y'all already know what it is. It's your guy Border Lucky Libra, tuning in and tuning out. Make sure y'all check out my website, my Patreon, and all that. And next, we picking up with the debilitation of the Cancer zodiac sign. Alright, and this series is for us to understand our weakness so we can turn them into some strengths. Alright, family. Until next time, peace.